up, brothers and sisters, and welcome to MTG Malone with me, MtgA Malone. Today we're finally doing it. I prepared 5 decks for today, but one was scrubbed because I was not satisfied with the way I had to build it, and I think that it can be better, but I need to playtest it very hardcore to do so. So that is why today we have 4 Strixhaven decks. I'm very glad that you're all here. This is the first time I'm doing it. I hope that without playtesting I'm still able to build all these decks, and I hope that they will be just as fun for you as they are for me. First things off, of course they aren't playtested, so yeah. There will be some changes when I will be showing them on my channel. Also, there's no mana base in here because I really need to playtest these decks to make a 100% safe mana base. For now, I just kept space for 24 cards that are mana, so you can put in whatever land you like for now, but for now these are without mana base, so forgive me, but I really need to playtest them to make sure, so I didn't want to give you the lands that maybe you need to change them out in the end. But enough yammering, let's get into the Is It Burn hammering. This is an Is It Burn deck, and we have some expensive spells that deal damage to your opponent's face immediately, like the Creative Outburst. You deal 5 damage to your opponent's face, you can deal it to any target, but we want to do it into their faces. And yeah, then you look at the top 5 cards of your library, you reveal one of them, put them into your hand, and the rest on your library, on the bottom of your library in a random order. You can also discard this to get a treasure token, but we don't want to discard it, to be honest. We want to play it, but if we have to, we will discard it, because there's ways of getting it back. Then we have the MtgA Opus. It deals 4 damage, preferably to your opponent's face. Then you tap 2 target permanents. You create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token and draw 2 cards. This card is very freaking sweet. And you might say, Malone, these cards are very freaking expensive, but that is why we have the Uvilda in here. And yeah, you put her on the field, she's a 2/2, then you might tap her, exile an instant or sorcery card from your hand and put 3 hone counters on it. And then it gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is exiled, remove a hone counter from it, and when the last hone counter is removed from this card, if it's exiled, you may cast it for 4 less. So, this becomes a 4/4, this becomes a 4/4, this becomes a 4 cost, this becomes a 4 cost. So, for 4 mana, those are absolutely affordable. And by the time that the home counters are gone, you will have enough mana to also play the Teach by freaking Example, which just copies a target spell. It is just so freaking sweet. And yes, you will have them into your graveyard, and then you play the Efreet Flame Painter. And when it attacks and it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. So even if you have discarded these cards for a treasure token, with the Efreet Flame Painter, you can just cast him once more, burn your opponent's face. It is just so freaking sweet. There's also another card behind the Uvilda, but we don't really need it. It's the Nasari Dean of Expression. It will be on the screen right now, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast it, and yeah, you may spend mana store where any mana, but we really don't need to do that. We want to play our own spells. Then we have the Rowan Scholar of the Sparks. And yes, there's also Will that will be on the backside here. And it says instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, which is really freaking good, because all of these spells will be cheaper, and even cheaper with the Uvilda. So maybe you can even play the MtgA Opus for 3 freaking mana, which is so freaking good. Then it has the +1. It deals 1 damage to each opponent, and if you draw 3 or more cards, which might happen, but I don't think it will, it deals 3 damage to each opponent instead. And for -4, you get an emblem. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 2, and if you do, copy that spell. And you may choose new targets for the copy, which is pretty freaking good. So we really want to get her onto her -4, make sure that she survives that long, and then whenever we play a spell, we just copy it. It is super freaking sweet. So we can burn people's faces so freaking hard. And the Will Scholar of Frost, which will be on the screen right now, also has the same ability. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Then for +1 you say up to one target creature has base power and toughness 0-2 until your next turn, so you can protect yourself. For -3 you can draw 2 cards, and for -7 you exile up to 5 target permanents, which we don't really want to do because yeah, its controller creates 4/4 blue elemental creature tokens for each target that was exiled that way. So we really don't want to use this -7, but especially we want to use the Rowan Scholar of Sparks because we want to get to the -4. Just copy our spells every single freaking time. Then we have the Draconic Intervention, which deals, yeah, you have to, as an additional cost to cast a spell, you exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, which is okay because then you deal X damage to each non-dragon creature, where X is the exiled card's mana value. And if a creature would die this turn, you exile it instead. So, if you, for example, put your Magma Opus into your graveyard because, yeah, you had to. Then you use the Draconic Intervention, you deal 8 damage to each freaking creature, each creature will die, you exile them. It is just so freaking good. I wanted to try it out. I want to put it in here. As I said, maybe in playtesting I will decide that it's not the best card, but we will freaking see. Then we have the Maelstrom Muse, and whenever the Maelstrom Muse attacks, next instant sorcery spell you cast costs X less to cast, where X is his power, as this ability resolves. So, you attack in, you make each instant sorcery spell cost 2 less to cast, so your Creative Outburst will not cost 7 but 5, your Magma Opus will not cost 8 but 6, and if you have your Olvida ready to rock and roll, all these spells will be very freaking cheap. And then with the Teach, for example, as I said, we will copy these spells, and if we have enough mana, with the Rowan emblem and the Creative Outburst, and the Teach by example, and the Maelstrom Muse, all of our spells will be so cheap, and we will shoot them all of our opponent's faces, finishing them off in one single scoop. Then one card that is also really freaking sweet is Jotzi, Oracle of Arcavios. And yeah, there's also another card on the backside that says you may put any number of land cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Then if you control 8 or more lands, you may discard the card. If you do, return this card to your hand. But we don't want to do this. We want to use the Jotzi, because he has, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, reveal the top card of your library. That's Magecraft, the new mechanic. And if it's a non-land card, you may cast it by paying 1 rather than its mana cost. And if it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. So that says that if you have your Jotzi out on the field and you cast or copy a spell, you can get your Creative Outburst for 1, your Magma Opus for 1. That is freaking insanity. And if you used your Teach, for example, even, holy smokes, you can do it for so many freaking times. So, as you can see, the deck of the goal of the deck is just to get in there with your big spells, making him super cheap, and just shoot him at your opponent's faces 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4, finishing them off in one single scoop. It will be so much freaking fun. And the rest of the deck is making sure that we have the cards that we need with the Frantic Inventory, a card draw card of my choice. So that could even trigger the Rowan's +1, which is very freaking sweet, because if we play our 3rd Frantic Inventory, which will cost 1 blue, don't forget, will cost 1 single blue because of the Rowan of the Sparks, we will draw 3 cards, deal 3 damage to target opponent. It is just so freaking sweet. Then we have 1 Midnight Clock to return all of these spells to our hand sooner or later. And I freaking love the Midnight Clock, so yeah, it had to be in here. And then we have 3 Saw It Coming, our counter spell of freaking choice. So, did I forget anything? I don't think so. So, as I said, I will be playtesting this deck very freaking soon. But until then, this is the build. Let's go to the next deck. Alright, here I am back again. This is the deck number 2, Doom for Strixhaven. It is a Tergrid Doom Foretold deck with some cards out of Strixhaven, which seem to be very freaking fun and will make this deck very freaking nice. I wanted to include the Go Blank, but I realized that if they discard and exile their graveyard, that won't trigger the Tergrid, because that happens in the same step. So it won't be discard, Tergrid triggers, then you exile the graveyard. No, it will be they discard, exile the graveyard, and then the Turgid would trigger, but the card isn't there anymore, so you couldn't steal it anymore. So you know the Turgid, whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you can put that card from the graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and it is just so much freaking fun. And yes, let's go over the well-known cards first, and then we go over the Strixhaven cards. So we have some Shadow's Verdict against those aggressive decks. We have some Dooms cards to make sure that we survive long enough. Then we have the Scar Raids, and I put these in because, yeah, I couldn't use the Go Blank, as I explained, because the exiled, the graveyard will be exiled. Then we have some Rankles to attack in, to make him discard something, sacrifice a creature. We can steal both those cards. It is just so super fun. Then we have the Doom Foretold, because that will make him sacrifice a permanent every single turn. And if you have your Turgid out, you will steal them all. Then we have the Treacherous Blessing to draw ourselves some cards. We have the Soul Shatter to make him sacrifice creatures or planeswalkers, steal him with the Turgid. Then we have the Birth Meletis to make sure that we have all the lands that we need and to have something to sacrifice to the Doom Foretold. So, then the new cards in here is one Professor Onyx. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So yeah, with the Professor Onyx out, all of our instant and sorceries deal 2 damage to our opponent, we get some life back, which is very freaking good, because we have some instant and sorceries in here. We have the Shadow's Verdict, Doomscar, Closing Statement that we will go to, Scar Raid, the Soul Shatter, and the Humiliate. So, then the -3 is, each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power amongst creatures the players control, and we will get it with the Turgid. And then for -8, each opponent may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life, and repeat that process 6 more freaking times. So all the cards that they discard, we will get with the Turgid. If they lose 3 life, well, that is 18 life they lost, and until then they might even be dead already. So it is a very tough choice. It is a -8, so you will need some time to get there. That is why it's only a one-off, but I really want to put Professor Onyx into here, and I think it will be very fun to do all this stuff. So, then the new cards in here is the Closing Statement. This spell costs 2 less to cast during your end step, so why not do it then? And destroy target creature or planeswalker you don't control. You may put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature you control. So your Turgid might get bigger, your Rankle might get bigger. It is just super freaking good. And then we have the Humiliate. To make him discard something that we choose. If a Turgid is out, we choose a non-land card, discard that card from our opponent's hand, and then we may put a 1/1 counter on a target creature we control. So the Rankle becomes very good, the Turgid becomes very good. It is just such a nice card, and I really wanted to try it out. As I said, we still have 4 days until Strixhaven, and then I will playtest all of these freaking decks. So, it's a Doom Foretold deck with some new cards out of Strixhaven, and Doom Foretold is one of my favorite cards of all time, so I really had to build this. Alright, up to the next deck. Alright, so this deck, once more, mana base, we will figure that out as we are there, is one of the decks with almost only Strixhaven cards in it. So, this is one that got me the most excited because it is a crazy freaking combo deck. So, and also, it is the only one that has lessons in it, because we can learn with some of these cards that are in here, and it is just so freaking fun. Also remember that in best of 1 you will only have a sideboard of 7 cards from now on, so there's only 7 lessons in here. But that is more than enough, because these lessons are very cool. So, what is this deck? It's a Golgari burn deck. Yes, I said it. It's a Golgari life burn deck. Here is the name, and it will be so freaking fun. So let's go over the cards, then I will explain what it does. We have the Cram Session. We gain 4 life and we learn. Pretty freaking good. We get one of the cards that we need in our hand. We gain 4 life. What else do you want? Then we have the Devouring Tendrils. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or a planeswalker you don't control. And when a permanent you don't control dies, you gain 2 life. Then we have the Dina Soul Steeper. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So you can see that this is very fun, and for 1 you may sacrifice another creature, and yeah, Dina Soul Steeper gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. That is not that important, might come in handy, but for the most part it is just the lose 1 life opponent when you gain 1 life. Then we have the Hunt for Specimen. You create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So you can see we're getting a lot of life, and we're learning with this, so we can get one of our lessons into our hand. Then we have the Infuse with Vitality. Until end of turn, target creature gains Death Touch, and when it dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. And you gain 2 life. So, whatever they want to kill, it just comes back immediately. They need to exile it for it not to come back. Then we have the Plump the Forbidden. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may sacrifice 1 or more creatures. When you do, copy the spell for each creature sacrificed this way, and you may draw a card and lose 1 life. But if you are sacrificing 1 of your pests, you getting 1 life, so you really just draw cards. And let's say that you have 4 or 5 pests out, you do this for 4 or 5, you draw 4 or 5 cards, gain 4 or 5 life for each creature, not lose it to the Plump to the Forbidden. It is just so freaking good. That is why it's a 4-off in here. Then we have the Tent the Pest. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, you create X 1/1 black and green pest creature token that has, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. And you create X, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. So, we will sacrifice something real big, make a lot of pest tokens, get a lot of life, we can sacrifice them all to the Plump the Forbidden. It is just so much fun. And that is why it's a 3-off in here. Then we have the Veto. So we can get our opponent down for each single time that we get freaking life. For 5 mana, you can give all of your creatures lifelink, but that is not the most important part. It can be, if you're attacking in with 7 pests, they all die because they block him, they have lifelink, they deal 7 damage to your opponent with lifelink, or to creatures your opponent controls with lifelink. That will drain them for 7 because of the Veto, and yeah, then they die, you gain 1 life, your opponent loses 7 life once more. It is just so freaking good. Then we have the Culling Ritual. I will go over this card last. Then we have the Demagoth Titan. Whenever it attacks or blocks, you sacrifice a creature. But he's 11/11 with 10. So, if you use your Tent the Pests on your Demagoth Titan, you will get 11 pests, which is so freaking sweet, and we absolutely want to do that. Then we have the Moldering Karok. And yes, you can just sacrifice 1 of your pests that you will build all the time, so don't you worry about it, you will always have something to sacrifice. Then we have the Moldering Karok, the Zombie Crocodile, and I'm so happy that this is here because it looks freaking sweet. It has Trample and Lifelink. A 3/3 with Trample and Lifelink is very good in a Veto deck, so I wanted to try it out. Then you have the Mortality Spear, and this is a 4 mana, destroy target, non-land, permanent. And if a creature you control, if you gained life this turn, it only costs a black and a green. So, this is kind of a, what was the name again? Assassin's Trophy. And if you gained life this turn, you just pay a black and a green, destroy whatever, and you don't even get a land. And even for 4 mana, this is still good because it's instant speed. So, let's go over the lessons real quick. We have the basic Conjuration. You look at the top 6 cards of your library, reveal a creature card from among them, put them into your hand, put the rest in the bottom of your library, you gain 3 life. A lot of life gain. Then we have the Necrotic Fumes. As an additional cost to cast a spell, exile a creature you control. Can even be a token, it doesn't say non-token. And then you exile target creature or planeswalker. So, you get rid of 1 of your tokens, they lose a creature or a planeswalker. If it has indestructibility, you don't care, you will exile it anyways. And then we have 3 pest summonings in here, because we want to create as many pests as we can. Create 2 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens that when they die, you gain a life. So, now let's go over the Culling Ritual. You destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost 2 or less. Yes, now it's called mana value, but some of these cards still have CMC, so I will call it that until Strixhaven is officially out. So, you destroy each non-land permanent with CMC 2 or less. Then you add a black or a green for each permanent destroyed this way. So, our plan is very freaking cunning. You will put a lot of pest creature tokens with your Damogoth Titan onto the battlefield with the Tenta Pests. Have your pest summoning, create some tokens. It is just so freaking sweet. And then you put your veto out, you use your culling ritual, all of your pest creatures will die, which will give you a lot of life, and then you will drain them with the veto, and the veto will survive because of the culling ritual. So that is very freaking sweet. And until then, until you can do that, you just drain them with the veto with all of your life gain cards like the Cram Session, the Devouring Tendrils. The Dina also will do the job because you can just sacrifice one of your pests, make them lose 1 life. It is just so freaking good. The Infuse with Vitality can make sure that the Dina also comes back that turn if you really need to. The Hunt for Specimens will make sure that you have enough pests and that you, get one of your learned cards in your hand, the Lessons. So, this is a very crazy combo deck, and I think that it is very, very freaking possible to pull this off because your opponent would really need to get rid of your veto, and even with your Dina and your Infuse with Vitality. So, you can make sure that the veto comes back with the Infuse with Vitality. There will be maybe some cards that I will be switching out. As I said, I need to playtest this. Maybe the Moldering Karok can go, but even if this is out with your veto out, you will attack in for 3. Make them lose 3 life. It is just so freaking good. Also, there might be some ways to give the Damogoth Titan lifelink. That would also be a possibility. But for now, this is what it is. Also, if you have a Damogoth Titan out, you infuse it with Vitality, you use your Tenta Pests, sacrifice the Damogoth Titan, return it to the battlefield, you have 11 pests now. It is just so freaking fun. It is just so freaking fun. So, this is the idea for the deck. I will see you in the next deck. Alright, up to the last deck for today, which is called Lorehold. So, this is the Lorehold deck, and I wanted to build an aggressive deck because they are fun as well. And yeah, let's go over the cards real quick. We have 4 Fervent Champions, we have 4 Selfless Saviors, we have 4 Luminarch Aspirant, 4 Seasoned Hallowblades, 4 Maul of the Skyclaves, and 3 Skyclave Apparitions. So these are the cards that you already know, and you should know by now what they do. They're getting in aggressive, protect your creatures, make them bigger, just attacking through the air. It is just super freaking good. Then we have some new cards. One of the most important cards in here is the Blade Historian. Attacking creatures you control have double strike, which is so freaking good. Because if you're new to this, it means they have first strike and they have normal strike. So if they attack in and the opponent wants to block, but you have more power than they have toughness, they will die, and that's just very freaking good. Then we have the Venerable Warsinger. He has Vigilance and Trample, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature card with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of damage that it dealt to that player. So, if you put the hammer onto the Venerable Warsinger, or it just gets in, tramples through a small creature, you can bring back one of your creatures. It is very freaking sweet. Then another card that is also very freaking nice in here is the Mila Crafty Companion. Whenever an opponent attacks one or more planeswalkers you control, that part is not that important. You put a loyalty counter on a planeswalker, on each planeswalker you control, but the important part here is whenever a permanent you control becomes target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. So that is very good. They want to shoot down one of your creatures, you draw a card. They want to sacrifice, they want to kill one of your creatures, you make them draw a card. They want to tap down one of your creatures, you draw a freaking card. And that is just so freaking nice. That is why it's in here. On the other side, we have a Luca that will be on the screen right now. It's a 6 mana planeswalker, so not that important for this deck. It says, +1, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. If a creature card was discarded this way, draw 2 cards instead. Then, for -2, you can return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste, and you exile it at the beginning of your end step, of your next upkeep. Also not that important, and at 6 mana it is very hefty. And for -7 you get an emblem that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So there might be some other possibilities, but as I said, the most important in here is the Mila crafty freaking companion. So what do you want to do? You want to put down your Fervent Champion, Selfless Saviors, your Luminarch Aspirants, give them all double strike with your Blade Historian, make them fly thanks to the Maul of the Skyclaves. It is just so freaking sweet. And then one card in here that's also from Strixhaven is the Beaming Defiance. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and hexproof until end of turn. So if they want to destroy that creature, you just give it hexproof. They can't destroy it anymore. And with your Seasoned Hallowblade, you can get indestructibility as well. So if they want to target your Seasoned Hallowblade while your Mila is out, you draw a card, then you can discard that card. It is just so freaking sweet. And yeah, then another very cool card to finish your opponents off is the Semester's End. You exile any number of target creature and or planeswalkers you control, so in this case it's creatures. At the beginning of the next end step, you return them to the battlefield under its owner's control, so your control, and each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. And yeah, if it's a planeswalker, they gain loyalty. But this is very freaking sweet as a protection for your creatures. So let's say that you put a board full of creatures. It is turn 4, so you have a Fervent Champion, a Luminarch Aspirant, a Seasoned Hallowblade, maybe even a Blade Historian already on the field, and maybe even a Venerable Warsinger. Who knows? Who freaking knows? They want to wipe the board? You just exile all of your creature cards. The board gets wiped, but your creatures aren't there. They return, all one stronger than they were before, and then you just attack in with all of them. It is just G to the G. As I said, all of these decks need some playtesting before. I might switch out some stuff. Maybe they don't work out the way I intended them to, but yeah, I need to play them to know that. This is just some theory. I hope that you enjoyed what I did. This was the first time I did this, so it was very new to me. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you want to see some more decks for the next expansion. I forgot what it was, but when we get there, I think I will do it again. And yeah, maybe until then, I'm a little bit better at theory crafting, building decks without playtesting them, but that is not really my jam. I really need to hold those cards in my hand or have them in front of me. So yeah, as I said, let me know which one of these 4 decks gets you the most excited. I will be building them all, trying them all, so you will see them on the channel as soon as we can. I'm MtgA Malone, and I will see you all tomorrow.